Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andy Mckee here. Hey. So, how y'all doing out there? Hope you're doing okay, and well, it's nice to do a live stream event again. It's been a while for me. I was doing some Mckee Mondays there for a while last year, but I've gotten busy teaching online through TrueFire. So if you like what I'm up to, you can go to truefire.com and watch all my videos there, or join in with some private lessons. I actually do private lessons on there as well. So that's all at truefire.com. And anyway, I'm happy to be here today with my friends from ToneWoodAmp, and I've been using their amplifiers for quite a while now. Hey, greetings from Chile. All right, cool, man. Nice to see you. And so happy to do some stuff with them here today for you, and we're going to talk a little bit about melody and dynamics. So I thought I'd show you a couple of my tunes, how I came up with some of the parts, and how I perform these tunes now, kind of thinking more about dynamics and how to make parts kind of stand out more. So I've got the baritone with me here, and I've got the ToneWoodAmp on the back, and I like to use the hall setting, so I've got that on there going, and you can hear sounds like that. And I'd like to play, maybe I'll go ahead and play through the tune once here. This is a tune of mine called Ebb and Coast, and then I'll talk about how I came up with some of the melodic ideas and how I perform this tune now, kind of paying attention to dynamics quite a bit. So here, I'll just run through it one time. This is Ebb and Coast. All right, Ebb and Coast right there. So this is a baritone guitar, and when I first got my baritone, I was experimenting around on it, you know, and decided to try some of the chord shapes that I liked in standard tuning on a regular guitar, and you know, see how they sounded, excuse me, on a baritone. So, you know, I was doing some of my favorite like minor ninth chords things, some of these inverted major sevenths and minor ninths, like that, those kind of voicings. And so that was where I just started to experiment, and then I thought I wanted to maybe write a tune with that kind of accented backbeat, kind of like a reggae sort of rhythm. So that was where that beginning came from. And then I thought, well, I could do those chords with harmonics as well. Just to give them a different sort of character and different sound, different pitch, even up there, higher pitch. And so that was how it started. Had this little passing E flat or B flat in there. And then, you know, it was time to kind of come in with a melody. That was all kind of the intro leading into the tune. So I decided to come down to the first position, try some of those chords that I like down there. And I had this chord progression in mind of this. I'll refer to these if they were in standard tuning rather than baritone. So this is like E minor, A minor, B minor, back to E minor, A minor, and then this sort of an inverted major 7. So those were the chords I was going to work with. And so in this tune I decided that I could kind of drop out the accompaniment, you know, if I wanted to get like a really a melody that just kind of stood out. So when I do the melody lines, it's really just bass notes and the melody. And so I think sometimes as fingerstyle guitar players, maybe we kind of focus on covering all the bases all the time, and really you don't have to do that. Although, you know, you can. You know, if you're that good or whatever, if you want to cover all the bases all the time. But sometimes it's good to drop things out even. Some of the accompaniment, some of the percussion, or, you know, anything, just if you want something else to stand out a little bit. So in the case of Ebb and Coast, you know, I kind of dropped out some of the chordal stuff when I would have a melody statement that I wanted to really stand out. And then the chords come back in with that same rhythm, so you can keep that in your mind, that rhythm going. So it's always kind of doing melody and then the accompaniment comes back. Like that. And then sometimes too you can take chords and just arpeggiate them to get a melody in there, actually. So when I moved into this kind of C part here, I'm just arpeggiating that chord, really. And then some little lines to connect down. And so again, using just chord shapes that I liked in standard tuning on the baritone. Kind of that like a C add 9, but with the F sharp in there. I don't know if you want to call that a flat 5. Tapping melody. So there, I just arpeggiate those two. And then here, this was kind of fun. I wanted to add some dissonance in there. So this is a dominant seventh, like a B dominant seventh if you're in standard tuning, and then some diminished chords. And yeah, so I guess the main thing I wanted to stress though is that you know, as solo fingerstyle guitar, a lot of times we do try to cover all the bases, but it's good sometimes to just drop things out and focus on one thing, whatever it is you really want to express. And not all tunes have to have a big melody that that's in your face all the time. You know, I like ambient music and textural stuff too, minimal, you know, minimalist type music as well. But I think if you want to have a tune with a melody in there, it's good to kind of focus on the melody rather than kind of try to squeeze something in there. You know, sometimes you might want to be tempted to just kind of fit something in and keep everything else going. Like, oh, I've got this tapping thing going, and then I got to get a harmonic here because I can, or something. You know, if you really want a good melodic statement in there, try and focus on that, and then, you know, worry about the other stuff a little less, and maybe even drop some of that stuff out. But anyway, in this next section on Ebb and Coast, we go into a tapping thing, and that can be good when you're composing music to kind of just take a different approach to playing the guitar. So most of Ebb and Coast here is just straight kind of finger picking, but in this bridge section, I guess you could call it, I wanted to just change it up and get into some tapping. So one thing that's nice in standard tuning, if you're playing in the key of you know, E minor, or this is B minor on baritone, but you've got really your bass string, your three high strings, really actually all of your strings are in the key that you're in if you're in E minor. So when I went into this new section, I was kind of moving into C in the bass, but I was using open strings to give it the big sort of almost like an altered tuning sound. A lot of reason why we use altered tunings is to get that big sound where it sounds like more than one guitar. So when I'm in this bridge section, I use a lot of open string. Get the open high one. Some slap harmonics as well. And I'm just hammering on harmonies that are in this key. Back into the beginning. And so when I came back into the sort of intro part again, these days I like to play it just with a lower dynamic kind of. So playing with dynamics, I think, is maybe something that people don't focus on until after they've kind of gotten pretty comfortable with playing the guitar. And so it's just something that kind of adds a little icing on the cake, if you will. And it can show that you have some real control over the instrument. Like, okay, I'm going to take it down here. You're controlling the volume. You're making people listen closely. And so by doing that, people start to focus in, like, oh, what's going on there? So just playing with less attack on the strings, it can just change the mood of the part as well. And even when you go back into the main sort of verse part, if you will. You can take out the percussion stuff. You know, that's another thing that a lot of times we do this kind of thing with solo fingerstyle guitar. You hear that quite a bit. You take that out and it kind of just, it makes people focus in a little bit more, and they got to find the rhythm themselves a little bit. They're not being told, here's the rhythm, like that. So when I go back into that for the third time here, sometimes I drop out that sort of snare drum sound. You can bring it back up, you know, bring the dynamics back in and hit the strings hard again. So, all right, yeah, that's pretty much the whole deal with Ebb and Coast. And so, you know, knowing your scales is a good thing, especially in standard tuning. This is in standard tuning, so I was aware of, you know, like what sort of notes I could use to come up with the melody, and, you know, just sort of connected these chords that I like the sound of. It all came together that way. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my other guitar here and maybe play another tune and talk about it and some of the things going on with the melody here and the dynamics and stuff. Hope you're all doing well out there. I can't see any comments. I don't know if there are comments going, but maybe I need to push a button. I don't know much. Let's see. Oh, no, that didn't work. Well, anyway, you're all watching, I see there. It pops up saying you guys are watching, so that's good. All right, so this is my standard guitar here. All right, oh, there's a comment. Hey. Thank you, love you too. Thanks for listening. All right, so this is yeah, my standard guitar, and I've got it in DADGAD, and I thought I'd just go ahead and talk about drifting a little bit too, and show you how I came up with the melody for that. And so in this tuning, this DADGAD tuning, I really liked the sound of this E minor 9th chord here. So I'm just holding the 2nd fret on the 2 low ones and the 4th fret on the 4th string, and then the 3 high ones are open. All right. And so that was kind of where drifting came from initially. I wanted to build something around the sound of that chord. Yeah. And I was really into the percussive playing of guitars like Preston Reed, and I wanted to write sort of a percussive acoustic guitar tune, and that was also a big inspiration for this. So I'll play through it one time and then kind of talk about the different parts there and how I do it these days. All right, so here's drifting. All right, so there was drifting. Now the start of that tune is really just a percussive kind of thing that I was coming up with, and wanted to use some percussion on the guitar body. See this kind of clap sound hitting the face of the guitar, hitting the side down here. And so I came up with that originally. And slap harmonic there on the 12th fret, and then alternating to the 7th fret. So that was kind of the intro. All right, so after that, it's like, okay, we need to get some melody in there, right? So that was all fine and dandy, but yeah, I wanted to get some melodic ideas. So in drifting, I kind of took away some of the percussion elements to get the melody in there. So the rhythm changes. In the intro, it's really kind of syncopated. That hammer on back on the E there. Like that. But then when the melody comes in, I change it to straight ahead 4/4 and just right on the beat. Like that. And then all the percussion on the right hand, kind of take that out too so I can focus on playing melody. And so, you know, again, as I said at the beginning, the chord that really inspired the whole tune was this kind of E minor ninth here. And so I decided I'd use that F sharp as the first melody note since that's the 9th interval. So I tap that, and then of course I love the sound of open strings and altered tunings. So I pluck these open and then just pull off the F sharp to G. Goes like that. I like the tension of this. So I just kind of took that down to the 6th fret here. Like that. Pluck the open 2nd string. So relying on open strings to get that big open sound, like it's, you know, 2 guitars or more, and the percussion, of course, a little bit in there. And so that's kind of what helps give that illusion of multiple instruments and kind of gives it this almost supernatural feeling, I think. I really like that sound, and that's why I love to use the alter tune. It's just that real big sound. It's like, how many guitars is that, you know? So I use the open strings in the melody a lot. Just kind of repeat the first thing, but down here on the 6th fret. Like that. Okay, so that was just a case of where I kind of changed the arrangement a little bit so that I could work in some melodic ideas. And not have them overshadowed by all the percussion and too much accompaniment. You know, it's just kind of basic on the left hand at that point. Like that. And so then the next section, really just wanted to change it up again, take out the percussion entirely and go into some tapping. And so I knew I liked the sound of this chord. A lot of the cool things in Dadgad, you can do these chords where you have the high strings open, ringing out. So, yeah, I liked the sound of this chord, so I thought maybe I can go up here and get on that 9th fret. So that was that section. And then this big suspended D here. Yeah, and I'm using hall reverb, by the way. So yeah, someone asked that, so I didn't get your name. here again, I'm kind of relying on these chords that I know I like the sound of, and just trying to incorporate some melodic ideas. That was that one. And there's the first chord again, that minor ninth. So when I'm writing tunes, also I just try to use my ear too and see if I hear something, you know. So when I'm in the middle of writing things, I'm just trying to listen for something to pop up into my head, kind of. So even though I do know scales and some of the different modes and everything, I don't think about those too much when I'm writing. I'm usually just using my ear to guide me. It's like, okay, here's the chords. Where can I go with that? You know, and try to find something that sounds appealing, you know. So that was the next thing. Another thing I'd like to mention about writing melodies is a lot of times, if you want to write something that's really memorable to most people, you'll want to not have too many big intervallic jumps. Because the way I think of it is, if someone were singing, they're not really making these real huge jumps and intervals, and you want to have space in there. You don't want to, you know, there's lots of ways to write melodies, of course, but I'm just thinking about things that people can usually kind of relate to. The quickest and easiest is if you write a melody that doesn't jump all over with really big interval jumps, and there's some space in there. You don't want to have a note every 16th, it's just like straight 16th notes, which is, you know, fine, but that's not the way people talk or the way people sing. So I think that's what people usually relate to quickest. So if I'm trying to write a melody that sounds like something somebody might sing, that's what I have in mind. Trying not to make big interval jumps and leave some space in there for breath and for, you know, for people to absorb what you just said with the guitar. So so those are the melodies in there. So now also on drifting, I wanted to mention that on the third section in particular, I tend to bring the dynamics down there too. And that's just to get people to kind of lean in and listen closely again. And so let me show you how I do that. Let's see, where do we leave off from? Or no, even actually after the strumming part. Hey, man. Maybe I should mention something on the strumming section too. So that section really just strumming chords, but there is enough harmonic movement in there, and I mean that in the harmonies, that you can kind of hear a melody in there. So that's... You can even do little hammer-ons to accent notes. You can target your strumming a little bit too, if you want to accent the bass or the high strings. bring the dynamics down. That's what I do these days. So whenever you've got a tune that kind of has repeating sections like drifting or ebb and coast, you know, and the reason why I do that is kind of think of my tunes as like songs, like where there's a verse, chorus, and things like that, you know, verse, chorus, and bridge. Yeah. Oh, there's a question there. How do you deal with the new ideas for old tunes? Yeah, so like that. There was one right there, just playing that dynamically different, and you know, doing some of the percussive things a little bit differently. Yeah, let me see if there's anything else on drifting I do. One thing I do on drifting differently these days too is the intro. So sometimes I'll do it with these chords. And then go into it. So that was something I started doing a couple of years ago, and that was just a way for me to kind of introduce the tune in a different way, and especially when I do it live, you know, sometimes people aren't too sure what I'm doing yet, and then when they hear me get into that, they're like, oh, it's drifting, oh man, I didn't think he was going to play that, you know, maybe I'll do it at the end of the night or something, and it's just kind of a surprise for people. So, you know, and so I just kind of took the same chords, you know, this E minor, and did the melody over here. So I'm still getting the melody in there and just accompanying that with some chords rather than all the percussion and things like that. So, but yeah. So anyway, back to what I was saying about, you know, when you've got tunes with some repeating parts in it, it can be interesting for you and the listeners too to maybe just play it a little bit differently dynamically, and they're kind of forced to listen to that and pay attention, and you can even make little variations in there, you know, with the melody or whatever, some of the accompaniment. But I think dynamics in particular really just bring a level of expression to the music that people can really relate to on a very kind of basic level. You know, you can, when someone's playing loud or if they're playing quietly, it just gives a different impression to the audience and or anybody that's listening. If your friends, you know, sitting there listening to you, you know, just taking a section more quietly or even louder, hitting it louder. It just really brings the music to life, I think, rather than having this sort of monotone robotic performance. So that's something that I just kind of discovered later too. You know, I got into playing fingerstyle and learning, you know, how to play traditional and then some of the unusual techniques, and just didn't really think about dynamics till I started to perform more and more. And that's kind of the last thing that I kind of decided to tackle. Yeah, so yeah. Hey, all right. Thanks for the lessons on True Fire. Somebody had mentioned something about improvising. Yeah, I gotta tell you, I'm not very good at improvising as far as like doing just something totally off the cuff, especially in altered tuning. I don't really take the time to learn these tunings and where all the notes are. I kind of compose in the tuning and come up with some new piece of music, you know. So if you ask me just to, hey, just start improvising, you know, in that tuning, I'd be like not sure where to go with the notes and stuff. So it's not real conducive to improvising, altered tunings. But then even if I were in standard tuning, I'll go ahead and admit I'm not the greatest improviser. It's not something I'm really good at, I don't think. But I just think I have a brain that's more wired for composing or coming up with new tunings and new tunes in different tunings. That's just maybe to put it like in the sort of as a metaphor with movies. I'm more of like a producer or a director than an actor. Maybe that's one way to put it. Something like that. I like to come up with new tunes, and it's kind of like writing a story, I guess. That's what sort of do with the guitar. So, yeah. All right. So, I have no idea how we're doing on time. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask before we wrap it up, I guess? You know, I'm happy to. Yeah, I am human, dude. Yeah, I don't like to pretend I'm not. So that would be a waste of my time and yours. Okay, circle of fifths. Yeah, yeah. That is a good way to learn the notes all over the fretboard. But yeah, with the again, you know, with altered tunings, you kind of lose where you're at on the neck pretty quick. So yeah. All right. So I should mention too, yeah, one more time, I'm on TrueFire. I started that in August, and I've been teaching guitar on there since then. And I've got about 100 videos on there now on my channel. It's called The Joy of Playing. And you can get access to that, or if you'd like, you can get access to that and take lessons with me on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. There's different options on there. I've also got interviews on there where I chat with other guitar players who are doing sort of fingerstyle guitar. So that's been a lot of fun, and I intend to continue doing that as I pick up my touring life again. Yeah, someone just asked about tour dates. That's a good question. So I'm actually playing later this month in a few places. I have a gig here in Topeka, Kansas, where I live, and it's a benefit concert for disabled citizens here in Topeka. But this probably doesn't apply to anybody out there, so I won't waste too much time on that. But I'm playing in Nashville at the end of the month, as well as Lexington, Kentucky. And I'm going to Nashville because I'm shooting some new videos for my new music, which is coming out in July. And it's a new album with some tunes on it that really inspired me, some electric guitar stuff on there, some harp guitar, and some standard guitar as well. And I've got some dates in December with Trevor Gordon Hall, and some later on along with Tommy Emmanuel. I've also got my guitar camp coming up in July. That's July 22nd through the 26th at the Hyatt Regency Sonoma in Santa Rosa, California. And we got a lot of great instructors coming out. Yvette Young, Trevor Gordon Hall, Guitaro 5000, and Michael Mannering's going to be there. And we have a couple more, which I can't announce yet because we have some sort of legal obligations here, I guess, because they've got some other things that they've got coming up that they want to focus on promoting first. But I do have a couple more guys coming to that camp as well. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, so all the stuff in December I think is kind of New England and upper Midwest stuff. And hopefully next year we just get right back in the swing of things and get out touring real hardcore again and get to some other places in the States, as well as over to Europe and hopefully over to Asia as well. We've been talking to the promoters there, so I don't know if anybody watching is in Asia, but any case, Orlando, I'd love to get to Orlando again soon. Yeah, I love playing down there. So, yeah, I think that's about everything I need to talk about as far as promoting things. I don't really like promoting stuff, but I think that's everything. I don't like being a salesman, but there you have it. And andymckee.com if you want any other information about me and what I'm up to. And of course, I've got a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. So, all right. Oh, I should also mention too, I am going to be starting up Mckee Mondays again. I think that's actually on Monday. We're going to do one on my Facebook page. So if you'd like to catch some more music and a little less chat, it'll be mostly music on there. And I'm going to get some stuff going on Twitch as well. I'm a bit of a video game dork, so I'll play some video games and music on there. All right? Yeah, love to get back to... I played in India one time at a university. It was a real quick in and out thing, and I'd love to actually get to play there a little more seriously and get to a few places. Love the culture, love the food there, gotta tell you. Love Indian food. All right, guys. Well, I think that's my time. And anyway, I just wanted to stress, you know, if you don't have to write tunes with melody as your big focus, but if you want to, there's some things you can think about. You know, if you want to have something that people can kind of remember, you just remember don't have too many big intervallic jumps, and maybe leave some space in there with your melodic ideas. You don't have to jam it full of notes all the time. And also, once you feel comfortable playing your music, start thinking about dynamics and how you can accent different parts in different ways with either the volume or, you know, how your attack on the strings, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff just brings it to life and adds a level of polish at the end once you're comfortable with playing a piece of music. So All right, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope to see you all soon, either on live stream, hopefully in person, so we can shake hands and all the good stuff, okay? All right. Take care, everybody. It's been a pleasure.